Welcome to Coaching in Session,
where limits end and growth begins.
Hosted by Michael Rearden.
This is your space to challenge the ordinary,
unlock your potential,
and step boldly into your next chapter.
Your mindset journey continues.
So if you look at this idea of what you do in a given day, can you even determine what that is? Can you say that you're doing all of the right things? Can you say you're doing the things that are going to be lifting you up? But then there's some people who have this idea of just live and maintain, where I'm just going to get into a good spot. And as long as I'm there, I'm okay. Now, this is not to say that any type of mindset is the wrong mindset, because we can say that someone who's living in a 1-1 with a family of 5 shouldn't be doing that. They need more space. This is just this idea of the mindset of lifestyle, where we dictate how much house or home you need, what type of toys you have to buy for your kids and purchase for your family. This idea that enough is never enough. Well, I'm here to say that we can look at our potential the same way, where we might have gotten to a spot, especially people who have been listening to the podcast for quite some time. Possibly they're in a good mindset, a good mind frame, their career is good, their relationship is good. But then again, they still have shortcomings along the way. And I always put this akin to there's always a specialist who can help you see something you don't, possibly something you just don't know about. For example, when I'm buying land, I don't just simply buy the land and start building on it. I say, okay, before I buy the land, I'm going to get an engineer. I'm going to get a surveyor. I'm going to figure out all the logistics to see if this land is going to do what I want it to do. Now, if I want to build 20 homes on it, is that logistically possible? Is it okay with the county that I'm in or the state that I'm in? I need to know these things, and I might not know those things when I just see some property and an opportunity. Now, when we're looking at this idea of the opportunity for ourselves, it can be challenging to get up every single day, to do hard work, and then to one day get to our goal and then to do the process again, to get up and to do something even more difficult than what we just did or what we accomplished. And this is where many people have a fracture. This is where many people, they slow down, they start to stagnate, where they get comfortable with their potential. They get comfortable with their lifestyle. They get comfortable with who they are and where they are. And I'm here to say that that is extremely dangerous. And today we're going to be talking about that in my recent TUS Part 84 blog, where the danger of becoming comfortable with your potential is going to be the talking point. Now, this talking point is going to be for people, again, with strong mindsets. This is for people who have accomplished that potential that they were looking for at some point. They have put in the effort and they have gotten the results. And now they're at a place where they can cruise control. Now, this cruise control doesn't mean that they're not still learning and that they're not still growing. It's just that they're not as hungry as they used to be. Now, this is not to say that the people who are not as hungry or the people who stagnate or the people who slow down a little bit are doing something wrong. Again, this is a different mindset. We have to look at the long-term ramifications for staying stagnant for so long. Now, if there's live water on property, meaning there's running water, there's streams, etc., you're not going to have as many mosquito problems, right? Mosquitoes come from stagnant and sitting water. That's because they're just there. It's the perfect breeding ground so they can fester, they can swarm, they can infest, and it's not good, right? We don't like mosquitoes. The same thing is true is in our life. We don't like the mundane. We don't like the same old, same old. This is why sometimes in a relationship where things get stale, you don't do something different. And it doesn't have to be big. I don't want people to think, oh man, I have to take this person on a trip to every other country every other year, and I have to always be someone different for them so they can realize that, hey, this is still a fun relationship, and I don't want you to think that it's just some boring old thing. Now, I will say some people are just boring, where they like boring people, and they can be boring together. They'll stay in their house, they'll have their cat and their dog, or either or. They'll just hang out with their family and their grandkids, and that's what they like. They don't need all the extravagant stuff and the lifestyles and the trips and the designer clothes. They just choose the simple life. Now, if you are living that simple life and you're comfortable with it, then there's no rhyme or reason to say that you're living wrong, right? It's very similar to that story of the man who was in Mexico, the businessman who was in Mexico, and he saw a fisherman. Fisherman will go out to sea and he would catch a couple of fish to take home to his family. And he explained to the businessman that this is enough for me. This is enough for me and my family, and I get to do everything that I love. Businessman went on to say, well, if you got more boats and you created an enterprise, you could have more money and you could have more freedom. Basically, the end goal of what he said was exactly how that man was currently living. So we can go in a roundabout way to do a lot more work and get the same results of what we're looking for at the end. Or we can say, if I'm doing all of this work, and again, tune up series are for people who typically like to do the work. If I'm doing all of this work, I want to see something built beyond just my lifestyle. Now, when I start to look at this idea of our comfortable lifestyle, our potential, I look back at 2018 when I was beginning my journey. It's actually 2016, 2017, but 2018 is when I started the business. I remember for those 2 years prior to 2018, how much knowledge I consumed. I cannot tell you how many books I've read, hundreds of books. And I needed to read those books in order to have the mindset that I have today. If I did not read those books, if I didn't do the work, if I didn't develop some level of discipline and consistency in my life, I would not be where I am today. Now, this is not to say that it's going to take everybody 2 years. It just took me quite a bit of time to not only attain the knowledge and the wisdoms and to retain it, but then to conceptualize it and to utilize it. Now, I am able to speak to people, talk to them on so many different arenas where I can help them with their career, I can help them with their relationships, I can help them with their families. What is our 3 top things we help people with. And it's possibly the top 3 things that people are looking for in their life. They want a good career, good lifestyle, things along those lines. They want a good relationship, whether it be a partner, like a husband-wife situation, or just to find love, a girlfriend or boyfriend. Now, the last aspect is family. Not everyone's going to want family. And this is why my coaching, the family aspect is all custom. Like I can't just say, well, this is what your family needs and this is going to fit you. Now, individually, I can say that this coaching plan, we can focus on you, but the family, there's so many different aspects. We have the father, the mother, the grandma, the grandpa. We have the aunt, the uncle. We have the grandkids, your children. We have a lot of people in the mix. So we have to look at all the different personalities. We have to look at all of the areas where there can be some level of interaction, right? Where can we grow? Where can we improve? Now, the danger of becoming comfortable in any of those areas is that we fail to look at the prosperity aspect. Prosperity aspect is what good can come from this. If you truly pay attention to something, good will come from it. If you care and nurture something, something good will come from it. Think of watering your plants in your house. Has anyone ever had a house plant that they forgot to water and it died? I remember I had a house plant and it was my first one, maybe. It was one of my first 3, I think. I had went to Connecticut for like a week or 2. And this was in the summer. And I had watered it before I left. And as soon as I got home, the plant was dried up. It's been 2 weeks since it had water. The leaves were all brown and everything in my apartment was pristine. Everything was nice. And I just saw this brown plant that was dying, that was almost dead. It was literally at death's door. And my buddy at the time, I told him about this plant. It's so funny, right? It's a plant. I told my buddy about this. He goes, give it a chance to live. I said, okay, I will. And I watered it. I cut the dead leaves off from it. And I made sure that it didn't go through that situation again where I went on vacation for a week or two and it was in an environment where it wasn't getting what it needed. Well, today I still have that plant in my living room and the plant is doing better than ever. It took somebody to help me realize that sometimes people can be at death's door. They can be at their last thread, their last whim, their last cent, and they just need an opportunity. Now, I say this story and I tell you this story not to give opportunity to things that don't need opportunity, but to look at the potential of what was there. Now, I could have easily gotten a new plant. I could have easily just said, it's going to be more work to care for this dying thing than it would be to start something fresh and to get something new. And what happens sometimes when people, they get comfortable with their potential, they don't realize that it's slowly dwindling. It's slowly going downhill. It's dying in a sense. You're not nurturing it. You're not caring for it. So if we know that deep down we are not doing what needs to get done, then we have to shift our focus. Now, in this article, we talk about the dangers of it. We talk about this idea of comfort and motivation and creating disciplines. We talk about all that, right? So this is all really good for the article. But one of the things I really want you to understand is how to rebuild, okay? Because the rebuilding process is going to be possibly the most critical thing that you have to understand. Now, the areas that you're going to rebuild, again, are going to be unique to you. For example, I was big on personal development before I started my business. When I started my business, I was reading many more business books, money books, etc., right? So I was figuring out things as I was going. And then now my absorption or my knowledge base is very different than it once was. I don't listen to as many mindset audio books or podcasts or read as many business books anymore. And you have to ask why. Why are you not doing that? Do you not need it? And the answer is I need it, right? We always need that. There's something that we need to understand that if we are not going to use it, we're going to lose it, right? And the mindset has to continually be nurtured. And you have to challenge yourself in certain areas and certain realms. Now, of course, you can do it yourself, but oftentimes what happens is we can be very soft and easy on ourselves. Think of going to the gym as an example. I am going to the gym, I'm doing really good, and then all of a sudden I stop going to the gym because I got an injury. Now, I can say, well, my injury is stopping me from going to the gym, so I'm making an excuse. And I understand it's a valid reason, right? It's a valid reason to not go to the gym if you're injured and you need to recover. But when you do recover, are you having this idea in your mind that you don't want to get hurt again? Are you having this idea in your mind that you don't want to push yourself too much because you did once before and that's how you got hurt? So there's a fear there. The fear is stopping you. And we have to understand the difference between something that's stopping us because of fear or this idea that something bad can happen down the road, because we know deep down inside that this is going to help us later. Now, I've talked about this before, and I'll keep on talking about it. There are going to be days when it's okay to say, you know what? I'm going to take a step back. And then tomorrow you can take 2 steps, 5 steps, 10 steps forward. But you did that with a plan. You didn't just say, I don't feel like doing this today. And then tomorrow it's the same thing. For example, let's say I lost my voice a couple weeks back. I wanted to do some recordings and meet with some more people, and I couldn't, right? My voice just wasn't allowing me to do it. So I said, okay, well, what can I do? And I did the bare minimum. And now I'm at that point where I have to make a choice. All right, I could play catch up. I could just let things be and be stressed out, or I can just continue to blame life and then eventually just stop the podcast, right? I mean, like it can go from 0 to 100 real quick. Now, looking back at these disciplines, right, to build the potential, we have to see where we can make some improvements. Now, as I was saying, for me in the beginning, I was doing a lot of mindset work in the beginning. I was doing a lot of business stuff when the business was beginning. And this is essentially just like the first step here, where you have to identify where you've become comfortable. Now, I don't believe I have become comfortable in mindset. I don't believe I've become comfortable in business. I'm still consuming knowledge, and I'm getting knowledge from mentors and coaches from myself or for myself. And I am learning through other people versus through other resources like books and podcasts. So basically the way I was attaining information in those two regards have shifted. Now, I will say book learning is paramount to video watching, right? In my opinion, right? You can retain so much more from a book than you would a video, right? A video is great, it's easy, but when you read something, something happens in the brain. It's a different part that really sticks. It's like you have Elmer's glue and you have Gorilla Glue. Elmer's glue is going to be the movie. Yes, it's going to be powerful. It's going to maybe be enough for what you need. But if you need something strong, long lasting, Gorilla Glue, then heck, pick up a book. Now, my focus has shifted from the mindset to the business to now family. Family is big for me, possibly because I have a family. And I have to make sure that not only am I being the best husband, am I the best father or the best son or the best brother, or the best uncle. I'm an uncle also. What do I need to do in those regards? I need to learn how to activate. Now, I also need to know how to help my clients, because there are so many different parenting styles, and there's so many different personalities, and there's so many different situations, from a household that is well put together to a household that is broken. And I cannot tell you that it doesn't necessarily matter if you come from either or. There's still going to be problems along the way. There's going to be hiccups along the way. There's going to be learning lessons along the way. For example, my son, he's 4. He's learning all of his emotions, and he's very volatile, not in the sense of abusive or hitting or things like that, but his emotions. He can go from really powerful and confident to weak and afraid very quickly. And I have to be there, not only as his father, but the man for him to see and to emulate one day. I have to instill into him what he needs to be feeling. Now, I use the word need sparingly, right? Because he doesn't necessarily need to feel a certain way. It's just the things I want him to feel are going to have better benefits than if he felt a certain way, right? I want him to gain things, not lose things. And if he loses things, I want him to lose negative things, like the fear of failure or the fear of rejection, things along those lines, things that he doesn't need, right? The fear of obstacles, right? He is learning at this point, and it's a lot of emotions going on. So all of my learning has become family orientated. So the mindset stuff might have been in the beginning 80%, the business might have been 20%, and family, I didn't have family at the time. So that was very low on the priority. It was probably 0%. And then all of a sudden, now the business is going, I need to focus on the business. So I was like 50% mindset, 50% business. Now the mindset's doing pretty good. I can do 30% mindset, maybe 60% business. And then I could say 10% family, right? That's when I started to, figure out, okay, well, family stuff now, right? I'm getting of age, get married, things along those lines, family. And then eventually family started to come in, and now family can be damn near 70. Mindset is maybe 10%, in business is 20%. It doesn't necessarily mean that my mindset is this absolute being of mindset. Yes, it's better than others, but I'm not here to compare myself to others. I'm here to compare myself to what I was. And from where I started to where I am, I'm a light years ahead. And I know I can be even more light years ahead as long as I remain consistent. And again, it's the 100 aspect where I know family is going to be a big part for the next 5 to 10 years of my life. Family is going to be paramount. And then it might be now I'm going to focus on business again when kids are going off to college and they're separating from me and they're learning how to be independent in the world. And then I might have to have more mindset come in because I'm now learning how to not be that dad who was always making sure that they were okay. I'm just going to have to be that dad that is there when they need support, that is that is going to be there when they need help, right? The mindset aspect is going to shift. The family aspect is going to shift. The business aspect might even shift. You might have fallen out of love from your business or your passions or whatever, and you choose something different. And so you have to understand that. Now, this is where you have to understand where you're comfortable. Now, for me, I know where I was comfortable and I knew I had to give myself something else to focus on. And the comfortable aspect was I'm really good where I am. And if I really made some pushes to try to be better, the results would have been very small. It would have been very minute. And sometimes when people see small changes versus big changes, it's hard for the brain to conceptualize the effort versus the time or just simply the stress or how challenging it was to do something. So for me, I knew what was the most rewarding for me to get out of this idea of, hey, I'm in a really good spot right now, but I don't want to do something. I needed to do something. And I figured out what that was. For me, it was family. Now, you need to look at your standards, right? And this is important. If you don't understand your standards, you're always going to fall below them. Your standards can be, again, for your family, your business, your relationships, like your coworkers, things along those lines, your career, friends. You have to understand the standards that you are keeping. And if you are letting your standards slip, then you got some problems. Let's use clothing as an example. I think it's pretty easy. Let's say you're a size 12 dress and then all of a sudden you're a size 16 dress. You might say, I'm beautiful just the way I am. And I'm not saying that you're not beautiful, but let's say that your standard was, I want it to be between an 8 and a 12 dress, and you were already at 12. So you were literally at the end of your standard. And now all of a sudden you are well past it. And then you're in 16, size 16. Now, I'm not saying you want to be size 12 or 16 or 8. I'm just saying as an example. So you have to understand that you have now forsaken your standards and ideally you want to get back to it. Men, possibly you want to run a mile and you can't run a mile. Maybe you have a certain target heart rate. Maybe you want to lift a certain amount of weight on the bench. Maybe you want to fit a certain size pants, right? Whatever it is, a certain weight, you want to understand what your standard is. You want to make a certain amount of money, career. You want to have this much time with your family, go on this many trips, standards, right? All of that needs to be there and you need to revisit them. If you never visited your standards, then it's a good time to do that now. Now, the next thing you want to do is remove one excuse you keep on repeating, right? I'm hurt. I don't have time. It's too hard. I don't know what to do. I just need somebody to help me. I mean, we can go down the list of excuses that people typically will always tell themselves. You have to remove one excuse at a time. If you have 100 excuses, start with one. All right. And if you don't know that you're giving excuses, reach out to me, revenconcepts.com. I can tell you a lot of excuses in just our first meeting. It's amazing how many excuses people use because they think it validates their decision. I'm not going to the gym today because it didn't work out. Oh yeah, I didn't call someone because I didn't have any time in this week. And it's so funny when there's a phone call I have to make. I get off the phone with somebody and they're like, hey, I'm having this problem. I go, give me a second. I call the person immediately. I don't put it on my to-do list. I just do it. I go here, boom, done. And then I figure out what I got to do next. I'm not going to say, oh, I got to go do that. I'm making excuses. I don't got no time right now. I just do it. Typically, phone calls can be very quick. I know sometimes people think phone calls have to be this long thing. I know in our coaching sessions, about 30 minutes for our clarity set, for our initial consultation. But then for our clarity sessions, things like that, it's only about 60 to 90 minutes. So in your day versus your week versus your year versus your lifetime, I mean, that is just a small, minute thing that can help propel you so much further. You need to understand you cannot allow excuses to dictate your life any further. So if you feel stuck, if you feel as if you're not reaching your potential still, and you feel as if excuses are slowly weighing you down and stressing you out, then you need to look at those. Now, one of the things I always recommend to do, especially after a hardship, an injury, whatever, depression, a life-changing event, you need to rebuild your daily structure. If you don't rebuild your daily structure, what do you got? You got nothing, okay? You need to figure out what you do. And if you are doing something, what is the best thing that you do? For me, I like waking up, and the first thing I like doing in the morning, of course, go to the bathroom, brush teeth, and do all the bathroom stuff, right? I like going to the gym. I like going to the gym. I like drinking a liter of water. If I don't drink a liter of water, if I don't go to the gym, I got some big problems already in my day. I understand I am extremely busy. When I wake up, I can't tell you how many notifications are on my phone. I don't know what I'm going to do. One day I'm going to have someone carry my phone around for me, and they're just going to answer my phone, and they're going to take care of all the notifications and take care of all that stuff. I don't want to do it. It is daunting. Just because you go to sleep for 6 hours, 8 hours, you're like, you wake up and the whole world is knocking at your door. And I get it. I get it. It could be a lot, right? So you need to understand your daily structure. For me, what I like to do in the morning, I will look at my notifications really quick. If there's anything important, I'll take care of it because I have high-end clients. So now I will look at only those important notifications. I clear everything else. But after I go to the gym, after I drink my liter of water, and if I need breakfast, I'll get some level of breakfast going on. Then that's when I start tackling my day, right? And my kids should already be in school. And on the weekends, this is a different schedule, but they go to Montessori. So it doesn't matter if it's summer, or it doesn't matter if it's in the school year. They're in school Montessori. And I am just going through the process, right? There's certain days I go to the grocery store. There are certain days that I am able to relax and I don't necessarily have many things on the docket because I either have to record or I have to edit. I have to do something else. So my focus is shifted, right? So my daily structure, I typically have throughout the week. Now, if I get sick or if I have a problem, something comes up, right? Family issue, an emergency, of course, it's going to mess up my daily structure, but it's up to me to say, let me get back to that. All right. Can I get back to it tomorrow? Can I get back to it next week? Whatever I can, as soon as possible, I rebuild that. Now, we can look at this in multiple areas, right? But this idea to improve one area of your life in the next 30 days. Now, this is something for people who are really at that danger zone. They're like, man, I have been on cruise control for a long time. And if I don't do something quick, I'm going to be more stressed, more anxious, and possibly things are going to start breaking, right? Because if you have a home and you don't do any repairs, eventually that home is going to become dilapidated. And the same thing is true in your life. You need to work on areas, your body. You can't just say, okay, I got to my goal weight and then start slacking off. You're going to revert back to where you were, especially if you kept on with that same old lifestyle that you had, right? You don't just reach a goal and say, okay, great, I reached it. Let me go do what I was doing again. No, you need to improve. Okay. So we need to figure out what areas of our life that we need to improve in. Now, I can't tell you what areas of life you need to improve in, but maybe it's your mindset, your physical health, your emotional control, your leadership, relationships, discipline, or career, right? Those are the areas where I talk about in this article, but it could be anything. All right. So figure out where you need to focus on in the next month. Maybe just start slow, maybe the next week, right? Where can you make some improvements? And understand that you might not see the results quite yet. I go to the gym after a week and I might not see the results, but if I go to the gym for 6 months, I'm seeing the results from the first day to the 6-month mark. And I encourage people when they're especially using fitness as their barometer, take a picture and then compare yourself in 6 months. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And that is what growth is. That is what success is. A tree doesn't just become this great tree that starts to provide shade for everybody. It takes time, right? There's that metaphor, this idea of we don't plant trees to sit under and be in the shade. We plant trees so our grandkids can be shaded. So this idea of longevity needs to be there. Now, we get into this aspect of taking consistent action even when we don't feel motivated. And this is just this idea of looking at your daily structure again, and then to do the things that you need to do. Of course, there's days I don't want to go to the gym. Of course, there's days I don't want to take my kids to the park. Of course, there's days where I just want to relax and I just want to breathe. But I have to be consistent in what I'm doing, right? There's this idea of if you are persistent, you will get it. If you're consistent, you'll keep it. And this is in all regards, your career, your family, your personal life. If you are doing something and it's good, to keep on doing it. If you want it to be great, then that means you have to challenge yourself and elevate. You have to do more reps, heavier weights. You have to go to more meetings, reach out to more clients for your business. You have to spend more time with your kids, your family, things like that, and develop a system where communication is paramount. I mean, we can go down the list of how you can improve on these areas, right? But we need to be consistent. All right. There's going to be days when you don't feel like it. But on those days when you do it, your mind develops a new vigor where it's like, I did something I didn't want to do. Now you get used to doing hard things. And that's where we want to be. Now, this last bit is to raise your standards and stop settling for less than your potential. Now, I talk about this idea that not everyone is okay with crumbs. Think of it this way. An apple crumb cake can get very messy. If you cut it, maybe the first piece is pretty decent, the second piece, but then as you get down to the last couple of slices, there's crumbs everywhere and the cake is jagged. There's a lot of crumble left on that pie sheet or the cake sheet. Now, some people, they might say, oh my God, it's my favorite part. I love those apple crumbs. Now, for me, I don't think that's the best part. I think, it enhances the apple crumb cake, but I think the apple cake part is the best part. Now, if I want the apple cake part and I know the apple cake part is the best part, I'm not going to be happy with the scraps that are left over. Yet some people in life, they're happy with the scraps that are left over. And this is why they accept what they get. Oh, this is just my life. This is just my paycheck. This is just my lifestyle. And they don't make any further advancements. It's because they're okay where they are. And you have to understand that sometimes you reach a potential, right? You go to college, you do all the work to get a degree, you find a job, and then that job pays you $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And maybe you get a bonus every other year, or maybe you get a small 2 to 3%, maybe 5% raise. And you might ask yourself, well, that's decent enough. But where's the growth, right? Where's the potential? You had so much potential. You knew you had the whole world before you. And then you just settled for a little spot, a little corner, a little crumb of the cake, right? This idea, right? That our potential is no longer viable, right? We become less than what we knew we were capable at a time. And then that becomes our new standard. Yeah, sure. It's not going to be a simple 1-2 process. It's not going to happen overnight. For example, I always like to say, if you eat one cheeseburger, it's not going to get you fat. It's going to take cheeseburgers consistently. It's going to take working out or not working out consistently. Same thing with pizza. Same thing with ice cream. So if you are a person who is in the danger zone of becoming comfortable with their potential, or maybe you have already passed that threshold, I encourage you to check out this article here. It's going to be TOS Part 84. Again, these are for people with strong mindsets, but it doesn't mean that if you have a weak mindset, you can't look at your potential into some way, into some regard. We want you to be in a better place. We want you to be able to grow, to be able to flourish, to be able to prosper. And I don't want you just to be amazing for a season. I don't want you just to have your 15 minutes of fame. I want you to have a lifetime in the green light, or the limelight, they call it. I want you to have a lifetime of growth and happiness, right? And all of this is possible. Of course, there's going to be hiccups along the way. Of course, there's going to be bad moments, but we don't allow those to dictate our life as a whole. Those right there are just moments to make us, or to help us, pay better attention. Because in life, we're not going to appreciate what we have. Our potential, our comfort, our lifestyle is often taken for granted until we don't have it. We get the cold, we go, oh man, I'm sick, I have a cold. We took it for granted, our health. But we can't walk anymore, we have health problems, our knees, our joints hurt. We're taking it for granted now when everything is right. We just say it's working, so it's fine. Our cars, our homes, etc., our family, right? Everything is working until it's not. So don't allow your life to dilapidate simply because you failed to take action. Do the work today. Figure out if there's an area in your life where you're too comfy and you want to increase your levels of proficiency to reach higher levels of your potential.